As God calls home basketball legend Bill Walton, the baseball and softball gods continue to shine down on Stillwater, Oklahoma. We've got regional titles, super regional titles, World Series berths, and Big 12 championships to talk about today.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we get to dive into both some baseball and softball conversations. We'll start off with baseball because baseball is fresh off of a Big 12 title. And this is oh so fitting because not only did the Cowboys win a Big 12 title, we also prevented OU from gaining a top 8 national seed for super regional purposes. Whenever you look at the field, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I think it's a direct reflection of the success that Oklahoma State baseball has had this season. And for all of my frustrations in the mismanagement of the rotation by Rob Walton, when you look at the pitching rotation, you see a lot of capabilities to make deep runs, right? And you saw that this week with the Big 12 tournament. Whenever you go through your ace, right, your number 2, your number 3, then you kind of got to dig down deep to find who's going to be the next guy in line. And thankfully, Oklahoma State has a lot of candidates, but one of those stepped up to the plate being Tommy Mulsky. Tommy Mulsky is typically, right, one of the middle reliever guys, the main middle reliever of the season. But he hasn't necessarily done a lot of starting. Well, we needed him in the Big 12 title game after using up Sam Garcia, after using up, obviously, Brian Holliday. And then Gabe Davis got quite a bit of mound time. Brendan Phillips, right? He's kind of that wild card out of Owasso, the big time, essentially a 5-star level recruit. We need to get him rocking and rolling. But we know what we have, and people like Tommy Mulsky, Gabe Davis. We still haven't even necessarily seen all of Drew Blake, which leads us to believe that we're going to have a pretty good time in the regional. And when you find out the regional field, it makes you much more warm and cozy because Oklahoma State is a power team. That's what we are. Do we have some guys that can play small ball? I think, yes, we do athletically, but it's not something we're good at, just like on the pitching mound. We've got a bunch of dudes that top out at 99, 98, 101, 102. You don't see that a lot in college baseball. And if you spent the week like I did watching all of the different conference tournaments, you've noticed that a lot of these schools have to play some semblance of small ball. Dallas Baptist is not one of them, which is why Dallas Baptist has been a massive thorn in our side in coming to the Stillwater, Oklahoma Regional for quite some time now. We avoided that. Now, I know that a lot of us Oklahoma State fans wanted Dallas Baptist to get Norman Regional so they could get a taste of what DBU is in the postseason, but we avoid that. OU did not avoid Oral Roberts, however, and we all know ORU made a massive run last year and knocked us out of a regional in Stillwater as well. So it's not like OU got the easy trip, but Dallas Baptist is somebody that we should all pay a lot of attention to. When it comes to this tournament field that has been released for the regional in Stillwater for baseball, fresh off of a Big 12 tournament title. By the way, the tournament title does, in fact, mean more. Selfishly, of course, we want the regular season title, but the tournament title is what helps designate for the regionals and the seeding and who's going to host and who's going to get a top 8 seed. For example, if OU would have beat us for the Big 12 title, they would have got the number 8 overall seed, which means they would be hosting a super as well in the event that they won it. We, on the other hand, we avoided Oral Roberts. We avoided Dallas Baptist. We avoid a super in Fayetteville. Not that we were necessarily avoiding that. I think a lot of us would welcome that. But as far as the road to Omaha goes, we got a pretty good draw, right? We got Niagara in our first game as the 4th seed in the Stillwater Regional. And then we also have Nebraska. Nebraska's been wanting this tournament. I've been seeing online. The Nebraska fans wanted to get the Stillwater Regional, so you got what you wanted. Now you get to come on down to Stillwater. And then Florida. A lot of people are asking, how does a team that is barely 500, 28 and 27 overall, make the tournament whatsoever? Whenever you have teams like Cincinnati and TCU that are left out. Well, Cincinnati, their RPI and strength of schedule is just too weak, a.k.a. they didn't decide to play anybody until Big 12 play, so that's really what screwed them. TCU, They have one of the best players in the game. They have one of the top draft picks in the game. But overall, even though they had a high RPI and a high strength of schedule, wasn't enough to get it done. Florida did, in fact, get in. And if you ask, what would be the difference between a Florida and a TCU or a Florida and a Cincinnati? Other than them being in the SEC, which does carry some weight, they also have Jack Caglione, which is not only one of the greatest players in all of college baseball, he's projected as a top 2, top 3 pick by a lot of services. Worst case scenario, he's a top 5 pick. He's a two-way player. His comparison right now is like the up-and-coming American version of Shohei Ohtani. He carries like a 4.34, 4.4 ERA on the mound, while he's also hitting 4.15 on the season. That's why Florida made it in, right? Jack Caglione is worth the price of admission for most anybody in the country. And if you're into baseball, if you're into scouting, you're going to be watching Florida simply because of that dude. Now, they've also got a few position players that have some major league prospect abilities as well. That is why Florida is in. Now, when it comes to Nebraska, Nebraska's got, they've got a certified dude whenever it comes to on the mound. I think when it comes to hitting, that's where they drop off a little bit. Now, Josh Caron does have a 611 slugging percentage. He is one of the tops in the country in RBIs. He's one of the tops in the Big Ten and a lot of offensive categories. But where this really gets down to the nitty and gritty is on the mound. I'll admit it, they've got a certified dude. And whenever you look at some of their other capabilities, Nebraska, like Riley Silva, he's a dude that is one of the tops in the country in bunting, sacrifice bunting, tops in steals. He's going to be somebody that you have to pay attention to. You kind of want to avoid getting him on at all. But if he does, in fact, get on with his speed, he's going to be something to pay attention to. Now, on the mound, where they do have a certified bona fide star, is Brett Sears. Brett Sears has a 2.0 ERA coming in. He's also just shy of 100 innings pitched. He's struck out 97 people, 29 of those looking. He's number 1 in the Big Ten in wins. He comes in and he doesn't really give up a whole lot. He's only allowed, I think, 1 triple the entirety of the season. So he doesn't necessarily give a whole lot of extra runs. Outside of him, they also have another pitcher, Mason McConaughey, who is in the 3.4-ish range for ERA, which is pretty daggone good. Now, he does give up a considerable amount of doubles and triples. That could be an area that we can exploit if we do, in fact, get Nebraska. So Florida has the stars, the stud, a top 3 overall pick in Jack Caglione. They've also got some other major league prospects in there as well. Sears is a bona fide certified major league guy for Nebraska. He's going to be their ace. He's going to be the guy that they try to save for us, I would imagine. And that is why the field is what it is. And when you look at Niagara, right, they had like 6 guys in the top 20 for their league, the MAAC, and batting average. They have like 6 or 7 guys that are hitting over 326. Pitching seems to be a little bit of a struggle for Niagara. Whenever you looked at the top 10 of the MAAC, they didn't have a lot of representation when it came to ERA and strikes and who gives up the least amount of hits, opponent batting average, things of that nature. Speaking of, opponent batting average on Jack Caglione out of Florida is like 217. The opposing batting average off of Sears for Nebraska was like 197 or something to that effect, which is obviously absolutely phenomenal. So congrats to Josh Holliday and the Cowboys to bringing in a Big 12 tournament title and preventing OU from getting one of those top 8 overall seeds. The regional we got is likely the easiest regional we've received over the last 3 or 4 trips. The last 3 or 4 times Oklahoma State has received a regional slot, we're usually going up against a small ball club that just kind of finds a way to irritate us beyond belief. We're a power squad for the most part. So if you're going up against other power teams like Florida, we win that matchup. If you're going up against teams like Niagara, yes, they've got maybe 6 guys hitting over 320, but they haven't faced anybody like a Sam Garcia or a Brian Holliday, or even if you want to dig to a Gabe Davis or a Tommy Molsky, they haven't seen that. And then, of course, Nebraska, outside of Sears, they have McConaughey. But McConaughey gives up a lot of hits, a lot of doubles, a lot of triples. So there's going to be opportunities for Oklahoma State to win this regional. Is it an easy regional? Not necessarily, but it's easier than the last 3 regional draws we've received for people coming to Stillwater. So this does set us up to play Clemson in the Super. We should be going to Clemson for the Super Regional. Clemson's regional is not difficult for the most part. I think the regional is High Point, Coastal Carolina, and Vandy. Now, Vanderbilt is not the same national championship Omaha every single year Vandy that they typically are, but it's still Vanderbilt, right? It's still the same staff that's led them to multiple trips in this order, multiple times to the World Series, multiple SEC titles, and national titles. So Vanderbilt can easily take down Clemson here. And if that happens, then we get Vandy in Stillwater for the Super Regional. I think that is maybe not the most likely scenario because Clemson is really good. But beating Vanderbilt anytime, anywhere, any year is not easy. And now you're asked to do it in a setting where they're most comfortable. So there's a very, very good possibility that the baseball gods can continue to smile down on Stillwater by giving us a Super Regional berth to host Vanderbilt. That's a possibility. We're going to rotate over here to softball because softball is obviously doing equally as major things, winning a regional, winning a Super Regional, punching a ticket, so on and so forth. But before we get to that, I have to remind the people, as you get set out to make trips to regionals, Super Regionals, World Series, whatever, you got to make sure that your vehicle is in peak performance. And in order to do that, you got to get rocking and rolling today with eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts to choose from, there's not a better way to ensure that your ride or die vehicle is going to stay on the road all day, every day. It has the right passion, the right drive, the right patience to give you the correct winning formulas, whether it's superchargers, roof racks, LED lighting kits, exhaust, and more, power, speed, style, whatever it is, we've got you covered. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your rig every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, the objective is to have you burning rubber, not cash, every time or your money back. It's super easy to turn your rig into the MVP today. Keep your ride or die rig alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit available for U.S. customers. ebaymotors.com. Go there today. Get squared away. You will thank me later as you make these trips to go see the Stillwater Regional. Now, if you did catch the Stillwater Softball Regional, you witnessed what? Back-to-back-to-back W's. And then you got to watch a Super Regional also in Stillwater, Oklahoma that featured future Big 12 opponent Arizona. Arizona is one of the heavy hitters, the OGs, triple OGs in the sport of softball. We were able to take them down, not only take them down, but it was convincingly. We won 5 games in 2 tournaments in Stillwater, and none of them were really all that close. And that's precisely the response you wanted to see after falling down in the Big 12 tournament. This is a team that legitimately has a shot at a national championship. OU is not the same OU, right? Texas, I mean, we got them. We got them when we needed to get them. And then you look at Florida. This is a phenomenal setup for us. I mean, not necessarily talent on talent. We are better than Florida, most likely. But the storylines here write themselves because you have Kenny Gajewski, who left Florida as an assistant to become the head coach at Oklahoma State. So we're going up against his guy, his mentor. So Coach Walton now comes to take on Coach Kenny Gajewski in a role that's kind of reversed. Florida used to be the heavy hitter, and we would have to upset them, which we have done in the past. Now it's flipped. Now we're kind of one of the heavy hitters of softball, and they have to come into Stillwater and they have to come into Oklahoma City and dethrone us. As we look to this rest of the World Series, none of these games are unmanageable. None of these teams are unbeatable. This really feels like the first time that we've made all of these trips to the World Series that we could actually make a run at the national title. Of course, when you're one of the top 8, top 4 teams in the country, you give yourself an opportunity. But I'm talking about realistically speaking, UCLA is very, very, very good. But they're beatable. So is OU. I mean, Duke, congratulations on making the field. But it does make the trip a little bit easier for somebody, right? It's okay. Call a spade a spade. But out of all the times that Kenny Gajewski has guided the softball team to the World Series, right, it was, we just want to get there. And then when you get there, so, well, we just want to win a game. And then when you win a game, it's like, well, we want to knock a couple teams out. You've done all that. The only thing that's left is to play for a national title. Even if you don't win it, you got to play for one. And this time, we're good enough to do that. Coming into the season, Coach Kenny Gajewski, after losing Kelly Maxwell, discussed this team being the best offensive output team he's ever had. And we've seen that throughout the course of the regional and the super regional. We saw that at times in the season. And we also know from a pitching staff, Lexi Kielvold, there's a reason she's top 3 voting for the best player in all of the country. And then you have Ivy Rosenberry, who's found a way to go from, that number 3, number 4 kind of midweek girl to the top of the heap, right in Lexi. And then we still have Kyra Aycock. Kyra Aycock is a mountain of an individual, especially on the mound, who has a lot of velocity and has a lot of capabilities when it comes to spin rate and changing the eye level of the batter. But we haven't seen her in a little bit. So we're riding Ivy and Lexi. That's okay. But we know we've got another one in our back pocket in Kyra that can come in and be pretty deadly in her own right. So we have enough in the pitching staff to make a run at this thing. And offensively, we look like an OU ball club. We look like a team that can jack a home run anytime you blink. And that's why making it was a big deal, right? We had to get here. But we keep stair-stepping up what we have done in the list of accomplishments under Coach Kenny Gajewski. The next thing on the list is to play for a national title. And this team offensively is good enough to do that. Defensively, when you got Talon Edwards at her best, we're good enough to do that. Megan Bloodworth is very serviceable at short. Rosie Davis continues to show why she's a freshman that's been starting virtually all year, especially in some big-time moments. Just feels a little different. Even without Kelly, we look more poised to make a run at the Natty this year than last year, or the year previous, or the year previous to that, or even in the beginning when Sam was bat flipping her way to get Oklahoma State into the World Series. It's been a steady climb, and it's been a flawless job, especially rebounding after the Big 12 tournament for Coach Kenny Gajewski and these Cowgirls. It's all about peaking at the right time. Softball, it appears as though we're doing that. Baseball, I don't want to say that we're peaking, because I still think that we have some more to offer. I think we still have some more capabilities that we haven't necessarily showcased, especially in the small ball department. There's going to be a team like Niagara that's going to force us to maybe do a little bit more of that. This is an exciting time to be a Cowboy or a Cowgirl. Guys, there's a lot of people in the country, right? There's only 8 softball teams left. There's only 64 baseball teams left. So this is the time of year where most people are like super slow and they're just trying to dig and find stuff to discuss. We're not doing that. Because of the success of Cowboy baseball and Cowgirl softball, we're continuing to have these conversations as we are preparing for a World Series and getting prepared to maybe make a run at an Omaha World Series. This is an exciting time. And I really love the aspect of Vanderbilt knocking out Clemson, so that way we get to host a super regional as well. Talk about the baseball gods continuing to smile down. We have the staff. We have the hitting and softball. The matchup for baseball regionally lines up pretty good. It's a good time. It's a good time unless you're a golf supporter. Now, we briefly kind of hit on this the other day. We were in like 14th place, which is like right on the cut line, and that already was unacceptable. Now you look today, and we're not even going to make the cut. Tied for like 24th, 25th place. This is Oklahoma State golf we're talking about. And there's a lot of people who like to throw shade at Oklahoma State for the number of national titles. Well, you get them all in wrestling and golf. Okay, you're not entirely wrong, but that's why we expect to win them in wrestling. That's why we expect to win them in golf. For as much shade as people want to pretend that all of Oklahoma State University's national titles have come in sports that are somewhat insignificant, if that's the way people want to think, that's fine, but we can't think that way. Chad Weiberg can't think that way, and obviously he doesn't, which is why John Smith chose to retire, and instead of taking the easy-peasy road of bringing in Coleman Scott, we swung for the fences. We brought in David Taylor from Penn State, and he's brought in an all-star cast. We've already got a couple massive transfers coming to Oklahoma State for wrestling, so we can instantaneously put our wrestling department back where it deserves to be, which is top 2 or 3 in the country all day, every day, no matter what. That's the same in golf. For as much shade as people want to throw around, it does still matter. It's a sport that we have expectations in. Does it mean you have to win a national title every year, every other year, every 3 years? No. But it does mean you have to be top 2, top 3, no questions asked. And we're not doing that. Now, Alan Bratton, kind of revitalized the women's golf program. We love you for it. Won a Big 12 title. Love you for it. Takes over the Cowboy program after winning 5 national titles as a player and a coach. You're riding off of Victor Hovland and Matt Wolf's coattails is unfortunately what's happening. Yes, I know we produced 3 All-Americans this year. And I know Bo Jin is a freshman that we need to pay attention to. But this is 25th place, not acceptable. It never, ever will be acceptable in the sport of golf. Even if you don't give 13 hoots about golf. Even if you have zero desire to watch any part of golf, as an Oklahoma State fan, you should be somewhat irate that we're not living up to the standards of what Oklahoma State golf is. Mike Holder set that bar. Alan Bratton was able to win us a national title in 2018, but he did it with 2 of the greatest golfers in Oklahoma State history. Now, was he responsible for getting them there? Yeah. Was he responsible for their development? Yeah. But he's also responsible for the fact that we've been trending downwards ever since they graduated. Ever since they've taken their talents to the PGA, we have suffered. And now you're talking 24th, 25th place, not even going to make the cut. We're not even going to have an opportunity to play for a national title in golf. That is unacceptable. Now, with what we just did in wrestling and what we did in basketball, which is proving basketball, competing for last place, not going to happen. It cannot happen. In Gallagher-Iba Arena, that floor deserves so much more respect than that. Thank you, Chad Weiberg, for making that happen. Thank you, Chad Weiberg, for going after somebody as heavy as a David Taylor to replace the legend of college wrestling in John Smith. But now it's time to look down the line for golf. Now, I'm not necessarily saying it needs to be fired right away, but this is definitely, he gets a 1-year deal. And I think that's being generous. I do think that it's time to move on because since Victor Hovland and Matt Wolf left, we have trended downwards, both in recruiting and in performance and in the Big 12. Not acceptable. Finishing 24th, 25th. You got to draw the line somewhere, Chad Weiberg. And I know you've had to do a lot of hiring. You've had to do a lot of searching, a lot of meetings with donors, kicking cans and buckets to get what we have. But there's got to be some golf donors out there because I love golf, right? Now I've been playing pretty much every Tuesday since my recovery phase seems to be over. And this has got to be eaten at some other O State golf people. That Alan Bratton's a Cowboy that won national titles as a player. He's won Big 12 titles as women's coach. He's won national title as a men's coach. Right? We love you. But this is not going to cut it. 24th, 25th place in golf will never be acceptable. Even for your casual fan that cares nothing about the game of golf, it's about being an Oklahoma State fan. And Oklahoma State fans can, in fact, rely on golf competing for national titles, just like we should be able to rely on wrestling competing for national titles. Just like in football, we should be competing for Big 12 titles. There's expectations across the board. Oklahoma State is a university that has high expectations in multiple avenues of athletics. So you tell me down in the comment section, do you think it's time to move on from Alan Bratton, like I think I do? Or do you think because of the financial constraints we've put ourselves in wrestling and basketball, that maybe we should hold off and give Alan Bratton another year? Let me know down in the comment section what you guys are thinking. Also, let me know what you think about the regional lineup of Oklahoma State, Niagara, Florida, and Nebraska. Nebraska wanted it, they're going to get it. Florida has one of the best players in America. That'll be a top 3, top 5 draft pick. That'll be worth the eyeballs. Niagara had a good season. They hit the ball very, very, very well. I don't know that they've seen pitching like we have in Stillwater, but time will tell. Time will tell as we circle back around here to cheer on the Cowboys and the Cowgirls. All righty, y'all. I reckon that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike it if you don't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and the big subscribe button as we're getting ready for giveaways. I'm pretty pumped up about this deal, y'all. All righty. Later, my taters.